Fuck it, eh? This is bullshit.
Wait, the fact that you have to do a podcast or the fact that you're up?
Everything. It's all bullshit.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right.
Perfect. And then I'm going to get the news links loaded up because I did not do that already.
All right. I think we're live, so if you're in the audience and you are listening to this and the audio sounds perfectly fine, you should let us know. If it's not perfectly fine, don't let us know. We don't want to know if it's bad, just if it's good.
Yeah. Just give us a yay on the audio and say nothing else. Like, let's just call it good.
Good Lord. You're gonna have to. I apologize to everyone who's watching this. I'm exhausted, and words are gonna be just not, my thing today. At all. Not that they're my thing any day, but it's gonna be it's gonna be worse today, guaranteed. Because I'm gonna be yawning through the whole thing. Of course, once we start BSing over stuff, I'll probably wake up.
Same. Well, get triggered. Ian said Tyler looks stoned to the wall. I'm like, probably. I mean, I did hit my pin, but mainly I don't really think I hit it that hard. I didn't wake up too long ago. It's gonna be a little bit before I'm fully awake. That's why I'm drinking an energy drink here.
There is okay. So for those of you saying there is fans in the background, you're just gonna have to put up with it. It's hotter than hell here.
I thought it was on my end. I was like, shit.
No, it's mine. I'm not doing this without some kind of fan, so I just apologize for that. I do have noise suppression enabled, so it's not as bad as it could be.
So look, what you're saying is you're not willing to sit in like a 94 degrees like Fahrenheit room, sweating your balls off for a podcast the entire time with no fans on you. Why not?
No offense, Tyler. I like you and all, but I don't like you that much. Like it's
one day you will.
Just too freaking. And the thing is, it's like it's 80 today, right? It's supposed to be 90 all next week. Like I don't know about you guys, but this is fucking Michigan. Like Tyler, I understand he lives south, but this is Michigan, land of the snow. Okay, we're basically Canada light, is what I'm saying here, and we don't get 90 degrees that often, and it's 90 in May.
Ooh. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year, man.
Oh, it's going to be like 9,000 degrees in July. If it's 90 degrees in May, it's going to be 9,000 degrees in July. Either that or it's going to snow in July, knowing Michigan. 80, that's nothing.
Like how so many people are like, or not so many people, at least one person's like, it's 80, that's nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
Well, I don't live on the equator, okay? There's usually a glacier outside my window. It's gone now. His name is Fred, and I'm gonna miss him.
Ooh, 102 out in the California desert. Good Lord, that is not okay. That's too hot. Too hot. I mean, it's probably okay if you live underground, but I don't think you do, and that's just way too freaking hot.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't. No, California there's a reason why everything's on fire in California. I mean, no offense to you California guys, but you probably should just move out. It's on fire. You should leave.
Yeah. Ooh,
So all right. So hold on a second. They say they have no water. They live next to the ocean. Okay, Like, we have desalination technology, and they say the ocean levels are rising. We'll take some of the water out of the ocean and put some of the fires out. It's
well, Matt, it's not feasible. Okay. Like,
no! I don't want to talk. I don't want to hear about that, because they had a plan about 15 years ago to build a pipeline from Lake Michigan to freaking California. That was their plan.
No, look. What you're supposing is that California take money that it has. There's the problem at the beginning. They don't have any money. But then, if you suppose they take the money that they do have and spend it on something smart, like, come on, bro. Come on. It's California. they do cool shit, okay? None of this smart shit, all right? Cool shit.
Like, they passed a law. I know this is not the actual law, so you don't need to correct me in the chat, but it's basically the law where each you can't buy pork there because the pigs each have to have their own apartment or something. Like, it's not actually the law, but they have to have, like, their own, like, space. Like, you can only have so many hogs per square foot or something. So they have a huge pork shortage because they can't raise pigs like they normally would. Like, you know. So.
Now, having a pig shortage is definitely weird to me, because, like, you could definitely just import, like, wild hog meat from, like, Texas. Because, like, I know so many people who go down there and, like go hog hunting, because, like, it's a literal problem, because, like, there's a lot of pig farmers out there, and, like, as soon as a pig gets out, like, it'll go wild in, like, 13 days or some shit. Like, it's a really, like, short period of time, and they'll just go completely wild. And, like, there's physical changes to the pig, like, after that, like, as it goes wild, so it just turns into a wild boar. And then people go out there and shoot them. And then, I mean, you could just import that back into Texas, or from Texas back into California. But that's the thing, like, I don't know. Like, it's just a lot of importing. It's a lot of money for California to spend.
Well, I mean, then they have other problems, like the lack of water.
Like, yeah. Well, I mean, like, California's got a lot of problems. They got a lot of problems. But I have faith that one day someone really smart will come in there and convince everybody else in, like, California politics to make good decisions. I hope. You know, it's good to be optimistic sometimes.
All right, I'm sure everyone's very enthralled with our conversation. Now that we've scared off the people who don't want to be here for sure. Yes. We should probably go ahead and get started. Don't talk about... They're talking about communism in the chat. Like, what? Don't talk about communism. We are not communists, okay? I don't even know what we are. We're not Linux doesn't make us communists. Like, what?
I mean, FOSS doesn't really make you, but, you know, whatever.
I mean, what are you, Joe McCarthy? All right. I think we should go ahead and get started. I think I got everything going here. So let's see here. Way too many workspaces. 3. All right, so 3 has the notes, 4 has the news, and 6 has the Audacity. So, Tyler, you have the Audacity installed now on your Linux box there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good thing.
I'm, like, actually ready. Ready.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead then and hit recording in OBS, recording in Audacity. You can do the claps when you like.
Perfect. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Whoa.
Did you even clap?
No, because you went way out of sync there, bro. Like, you went all Japanese movie there for a second. I couldn't keep up.
Oh, it was probably because I just started, like, recording in Alacrity in Audacity, and then like, maybe waited like all of 5 milliseconds before I did the claps.
Okay, now we try again.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
I think that's good.
Pretty good. Yeah. Seemed pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Someone was asking about your background, and the cool thing about the way I have the transform is that we can't see your bed in the background, so it looks like you're just in front of a blue screen.
Yeah. I've got a green screen thing behind me, but it's actually on the blue side. Like it's a double-sided green screen and blue screen. And for whatever reason, I found that the blue screen works much better with chroma key in OBS than the green screen does. Don't ask me why. I have no fracking clue. Makes no sense, but hey, is what it is.
Yeah, it is weird. Okay, let's go ahead and why don't we go ahead and get started? Okay, so see if I remember how to do this. We took a week off, and then all of a sudden I don't remember how to do it anymore. It's like coming back a complete noob. It's horrible.
That means this is going to be a great podcast, most likely, with plenty of tangents to keep people interested.
Oh, I'm sure, because I really don't know what we're going to talk about. Well, I do know what we're talking about. I know the main topic, but I don't think I looked at your news item at all. So I have no clue what you picked. All right, anyways. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to LinuxCast. I'm your host, Matt.
And I'm Tyler.
That he is. This is the LinuxCast. We talk about Linuxy things with the best plan and notes. We never, ever diverge from the plan. Ever. Just to let you know, we have a plan. They're in the show notes. You can view them if you want to. They're on GitLab. And we never diverge from those things. We've never had a tangent in our entire lives. So it should be good. Right? Okay.
Right. It's gonna be perfect.
This is gonna be great. So Tyler, what have you been doing in Unix FOSS related land this week?
Mostly messing around with Debian, like just enjoying Debian. Like really, in all honesty, I'm very surprised with how Debian's treated me lately. I typically go and try Debian and get some problems that make me want to leave it, and that just hasn't happened this time around with Bullseye. It's really nice. Adding backports to get like a newer Linux kernel, more up-to-date 0AD build. Everything has just been really easy with Debian, and obviously it's Debian, so I don't really have to worry about getting an update that's just gonna break a whole bunch of shit just immediately, or really ever, or have to worry about programs just changing pretty much at all. Okay, there's only worthwhile updates every 3 months.
So let me ask you a question. How have you been dealing with some of the programming languages being older? So the versions of Python and stuff in there that Debian gives you in the regular repositories, at least, are pretty old. So do you have scripts and stuff that require certain versions of Python or anything like that? 'Cause that's the problem that I always ran into.
No, I haven't had any problems like that. But then again, I feel like the backports repository would come in handy there, because I feel like you probably could get a lot of that stuff updated through backports. I'm not sure about that. I'm just saying I think so, but I really have no idea. But yeah, for me personally, I haven't had any problems with using Debian this time around, which is really nice. And I've also been using Fish more, so I really didn't expect to like Fish as much as I did. I've seen other people play around with it. I've seen plenty of videos on Fish, but never really given it a good try myself. I think I installed it before and used it for 5 minutes. I checked it out, but didn't really seem interested in it. But was talking with a few of the guys over on Discord and decided to install it and try it, and it was really good. it's a really good shell. I mean, obviously I would never make it the system default like shell, nor do I want to like start scripting in fish or whatever. Like I just couldn't care about that. But as the like shell that I actually interact with, like myself, very much like it. It's very nice. But that's what I've been up to. What about
Cool.
you, man? What you been up to?
Before I jump into mine, just if you're watching this or listening to this, I apologize for the fan noise. I'm watching the meter on OBS just jump up every time a blast of air hits it, so I can only imagine what that sounds like. I do apologize for that, but it's like really freaking hot, so I can't turn it. I could probably turn it like a different direction, but it's okay. Anyways, I just want to apologize for that. So, so I've been messing around with Polybar, and I've created a couple new Polybar like configurations with like power line symbols and stuff like that. So I learned how to do that on stream the other night. That was a lot of fun, and I'm thinking about going through and just creating a whole bunch of those because that sounds like something fun to do. Also, I've been considering changing my main distro. So I've been using Arco for a long time, and it's good. It's been good to me, right? I've been here for months, and it's very stable. But they've been changing a lot of stuff. Like they've been changing a lot of their tools and stuff, and it's just maybe I'm just old, but I don't like change anymore. But I don't like some of the changes that they've been making. So I've been thinking about either going to Vanilla Arch and I've had people question my sanity, but I've been thinking about actually trying out Gentoo again on my main system. Like, I've been thinking about it.
Holy shit.
I know.
Did you really just say did you really just say that?
I did.
I could totally see this from like 30 other people in my Discord. But I would not expect you to be like, yeah, I've been heavily considering Gentoo.
First of all, I blame Scott because he switched. He installed Gentoo the other day. I was like, oh, this kind of looks like fun again. So I'm thinking about doing it. So I blame him. But also the changes with Arco just makes me think that I want to find something different. And if I'm gonna find something different, I'll either just go to Vanilla Arch and mess around with that, which is probably the sanest thing to do. Or I'm gonna try Gentoo again. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'm going to yet, but it sounds like fun.
Well, I mean, yeah, it probably will be fun, especially if you do Gentoo. I mean, it will definitely be fun for your community. I mean, I think I will get an absolute kick out of watching
everyone.
You install Gentoo again.
Everyone loves to see me suffer. I don't think I will stream the installation. Okay, I'm just gonna put that out there. I don't think that I will.
Dang it. It has to be like some sort of exclusive event though on Discord.
Well,
it has to be.
I may do something on Discord for it to get help or whatever. But the reason why I don't want to stream it is because I want to be able to take my time on it. I don't want to have to sit here for like an hour and a half or 3 hours or whatever it is to do it.
Yeah. Just sit down on Discord. You don't even got to share anything. Just sit on there and talk with people on Discord throughout the process. Like, take your time with it. Like, don't even try to get help from us unless you have, like, you really need it. Like, just sit back, relax, and talk. That would be so great. I would be so down for that.
If I popped into the VC on my Discord, people would shit their pants. I haven't been in there ever since it's been created. That's the difference between my Discord and your Discord. Is everyone like? There's almost always someone in your guys' VC. Like always. Mine, never.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if the people in my Discord hate each other or it's just not something that they do. They're probably waiting for me to be like a leader and get in there myself.
Well, I don't know. It's weird though. If you start hanging out in there, people will be surprised that you're in there. Like, I've had people like join in on VCs, like where I'm in there, and they're like they pop out after like 10 seconds. Then I get a message. Oh, I didn't realize you were actually in the room. Like, is it okay if I come in? And I'm like, of course, it's public. Come on in. Like, yeah. But you have to do that if you install Gentoo.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'd love to be there.
Like I'm thinking about Gentoo. I'm thinking about it, but it's gonna have to work better than it did last time. Like I will not be able to put up with screen tearing if
Josh left Gentoo, to be honest. Josh left Gentoo, and if that doesn't say a lot, like
okay, hold on just a second. Josh distro hops just as much as you do.
Yes, but typically he distro hops and tries other stuff, but he had all of his devices are still Gentoo devices. Like he's just got like a crap ton of them. But Gentoo's been giving him like a lot of issues here recently, and so he's looking for an alternative to Gentoo. So he's been distro hopping a lot recently, trying to find a good alternative. Now he's absolutely genuine certifiably insane because he goes to distro watch and clicks the randomize button, and then just whatever distro like that distro watch like spits out to him is what he installs and tries, which I think is absolutely insane. Just because I mean we all know distro watch, like they will give you some pretty crazy stuff, and so
yeah,
he's been doing that.
Well, he is crazy. I probably wouldn't do that, but although I did hit that randomize button the other day to see if I could find something to make a video on, it gave me Pop! OS. I was like, that's not random. Like, if you hit the random button, you expect to have something that's like, you know, rare and stuff like that, right? But no, it gave me Pop! OS.
I love how you're clicking it and you're getting stuff like Pop! OS, and then Josh clicks it and gets stuff like Open Mandriva. Like, I love it.
Well, luck of the draw, I guess. All right, moving on to the contact information. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do so. You can find all of our information at thelinuxcast.org, including blog posts and all the most recent episodes. I do try to keep that updated. I'm not always good at it, but I try. Anyways, thelinuxcast.org. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thelinuxcast. You can subscribe to Zany, who goes by... You can subscribe to Tyler, who goes by Zany. I was going to say it the other way. You can subscribe to Tyler, who goes by Zany online. Screw that. Flip it around. Anyways, you can subscribe to Tyler's channel. It's youtube.com/ZanyOG. He's also on Odyssey and Discord and all that stuff. There is a store that you can go find merch at if you're interested in finding some merch. You should definitely go check that out. You can also subscribe to the LinuxCast on YouTube at youtube.com/LinuxCast. All the links and stuff like that, if you want to find any of this contact information, you can find all that stuff at thelinuxcast.org/contact. That was a pretty good contact information little section. I didn't stumble too many times, which is good. So, moving on to the next section. Now, every single week, Tyler, you and I, we scoured the internet for the most amazing and breaking news that could possibly be found in the FOSS world. And you can't find this news anywhere else, of course. We're the first to cover it. It's exclusive. So you definitely should tune in for all of your breaking news to the LinuxCast. You should definitely do that. So Tyler, what was your news item of the week?
Oh, a fantastic new article here about Unklle Linux. I had never heard of this distribution at all until I saw this, but it's actually pretty neat. It's one of those Linux that's trying to fill the shoes of CentOS now that it's gone. So it's based off of Red Hat Enterprise Linux 9, so RHEL 9, and it's pretty cool. So like for especially people who are like really big on CentOS, this is really supposed to, you know, fill the shoes and you know, be what CentOS was. And kind of like it really, in all honesty, yeah, there's a whole bunch of info in the article here about, you know, all the support that it's got and different features and all that stuff. But really, in all honesty, what caught my attention the most is like right at the bottom, there's those who want to migrate from CentOS Linux or RHEL to Unklle Linux can use the Elevate project, an open source initiative designed to assist users in performing migrations between different RHEL Linux-based distributions. More details can be found here, which is really cool. There's actually a project for just helping you migrate straight over from either CentOS or RHEL. So very cool, and I haven't checked out Unklle Linux, but I'd never heard of it before, and it seems pretty interesting. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight it just in case anybody else hadn't heard of it and is interested in something that is kind of meant to replace CentOS.
So I've been asked to do a video about CentOS and Alma and Rocky Linux, but I haven't got to it yet. So that's something that I'll be looking forward to. But that tool that could migrate you between different Red Hat-based Linux distributions, there needs to be something like that for Ubuntu. Wouldn't that be so, or Debian? Like if you run this tool, you can navigate between Ubuntu, Linux Mint, whatever. And same thing with Arch. Like if you wanted to, let's just say you wanted to use, you install Arch, you run this tool, you can navigate to Arco, Garuda, Manjaro, whatever. That'd be really freaking cool.
I want to say that like that should definitely be a thing, but then like when I think about it, there's for both Arch and something like Ubuntu, there is so many different derivatives that do so many different things. It would be hard to get to a point where you have support for all of them. Well, you could definitely support quite a few.
It would have to be a one-off, so you would be able to go from Arch to like Arco, because installing stuff is way easy. If you all you ever did was install the stuff that made Arco on Arch, it'd be easy because it's just installing stuff. It would just be an install script, right? It's when you would then want to move from Arch to Arco, then to something else, that it would become very messy, because then you start having to deal with having to uninstall stuff. And if you've ever tried to uninstall like a desktop environment, it can be done. It's just hard, you know, because there's all these dependencies all over the place and things conflict and stuff. So it's not. It would be easy, very easy, to create a tool that would move you from like Arch to Arco, Arch to Manjaro, whatever. It would not be easy to then move up another level. And I don't think
obviously some of the people in chat, like I hope everybody listening understands, you can definitely do it for moving between all these different districts. It's definitely doable. It's just so much more complex. Like it goes from being pretty simple to do to, you know, much more of a pain in the ass. Like that's when it'll be a problem.
If everything that made like Arco or Manjaro was containerized, so if you just had to uninstall that container of stuff, that'd be cool. But it's not that way. Like it's just not the way it works. Everything you install like the GNOME version of Arco Linux, you have stuff all over your distro that's based, you know, that thing relies on, and you have to uninstall that stuff to move something different. It'd be an interesting like challenge to try to do, but it'd be hard to automate at least, right? I don't know. Yeah. It'd be an interesting challenge. I'm thinking about how would I go about doing this. But I mean, the best way would be to, at least if you were just going to do the install thing, like if you were like saying if you wanted to move from here to here, and it's just one step and then you forget about it, you could, you know, it would just be a bash script, right? You could just do a bash script.
Yeah. Yeah, but just recognize the system based off the system.
Yeah.
Run and more like a distro, I guess distro agnostic script, but just to essentially install all the things that make that distro. Then set it up, like run through the script and set it up how the distro would have it set up, and then move on.
It could actually be kind of fun. I don't know. Maybe that's a stream or something to happen someday. All right. So anyways, moving on to my news item of the week. Mine is a little bit more controversial. So Ubuntu 20.10, which is the next version of Ubuntu, will be shipping with Pipewire as default. Now, I have mixed thoughts on this because every time I've tried Pipewire, it's kicked me in the ass. Like every single time, without exception. Like it works for a while and then it, you know, stops. Every time I say that about Pipewire, there's a douchebag in the comments. No offense to everybody else who lives in the comments, but there's that one douchebag that is in love with Pipewire would have its babies, and tells me that it's not Pipewire's fault, it's my fault because I don't know how to use it. So it's possible that I don't know how to use Pipewire or that it just hates me. I mean, it's always possible that it just hates me. But anyways, Ubuntu 20.10 will ship with Pipewire by default. I don't know. It looks like it's going to be shipped with Pipewire in place of Pulse Audio, so Pulse Audio will not be there at all. So that it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because Ubuntu is a really big freaking distro, right? And if it goes about as well as their first switch to Wayland did back in 2017, yeah.
I don't think it'll be that bad. If we're being honest, I think it'll probably go smooth. Like, this is the thing about Pipewire is I don't like the fact that we're moving it to the default for more advanced users, but for people with very basic use cases with audio where you're just going to be playing, you might occasionally hop on a Zoom call, like, or, you know, a Jitsi meet call, like, you know, whatever. You're probably not going to have an issue with Pipewire. Probably not. With really basic audio use like that, it's probably just going to work just as fine as Pulse Audio would, and it might not forget the settings that you give it. Cool. But when you've got more advanced audio usage, like, Pipewire can just not work. Like, I mean, I'll talk about this again. I had the echo cancellation module loaded in Pipewire, and it worked for, like, the first time ever, the last time I was using Pipewire, and I was like, oh yes, like, this is epic. Like, it was just awesome. It was super simple to load up, just like in Pulse Audio. Worked awesome. Then after, I think it was like 2 reboots, like after a few days, it just never worked again. Like, it still showed up as it was there, but the echo cancellation did nothing. Like, the module wasn't working. So awesome. But yeah, I mean, it's Pipewire. Like, it's good for basic use case. I think Ubuntu will be fine with it, but for those of us who like to do, like, content creation and stuff like that, no.
Yeah, I have a feeling that most of my problems were actually with, like, because I think that in order to get, so the problem that I had whenever I'm on Pipewire, and this has happened to me 3 times now, is that somewhere along the line, the audio streams get mixed up. So sometimes my inputs become outputs and my outputs become inputs, right? And the thing is that there's a tool that allows you, that's similar to Jack, that allows you to, like, route where your inputs and outputs go. And I never used that. Like, I just assumed that like Pulse Audio, it just would work. You know, I don't have like a super crazy audio setup. I have an audio interface and, you know, a DAC. Those are the 2 things that I have. So I have an input and an output. That's all there is. Now, I think that the problem comes in is that the audio interface has a like an input on it as well, and so, or an output on it as well. So because you can like monitor headphones with it. But I don't use that, so it's maybe that was what was causing the problems, but I don't know. It just seems like every time I use it, it goes wrong. But hopefully this will end up working okay.
No.
I don't know.
I mean, I think for most people it'll be fine, but it's definitely one that it's just controversial, just because it doesn't seem quite as ready as it should be for being the default on a system,
especially one as big as Ubuntu, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about something that for most people the importance is the stability of the desktop, like the stability of being able to use the system, you kind of want, I don't know, code bases that, you know, are as robust as possible.
When they went to Wayland for the first time in 2017, everyone freaked out a little bit, but everyone knew that if you didn't want to use Wayland, the Wayland version of GNOME, the X11 version was just a click away. Like, it was included with every install. All you had to do was change your session, right? This is different. Like, there's no session manager for which audio thing you're using. You will have to uninstall Pipewire and install Pulse Audio if you want to switch back to the normal. So, like, I don't know. Like, you're right, it's going to be just fine for most people. I think that's where we're at. I think that's the reason why it's being switched to, is that it's just fine for most people. Even people who do a lot of, like, complex audio stuff, they're going to be fine for the most part if they know what they're doing and they use the jack tool or the jack alternatives or whatever, and they know what they're doing. But Pipewire also deals with video and stuff, and it's going to be messing around with that, and it just becomes, maybe it feels more complex to me because it's something that I'm going to have to learn in order to use it, right? Whereas, yeah, like, I know how to use Xorg a lot, you know, so I know how to use tools that rely on Xorg, like OBS and stuff, you know, so I'm just going to have to step into the future and stop being an old, grumpy old man. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm a little worried about that transition, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so, you got something else to say?
Oh, no.
All right.
No.
Moving
At the very
on.
least, all I was going to say is you'll be fine. You'll get it.
Well, if I'm not, I'll just go use Windows.
Yeah, there you go. That's a solution. As always, just use Windows. You can't have problems with Pulse Audio or Pipewire if you're using Windows.
We just have many other problems.
You'll probably have I've got to be honest. I was complaining, or no, I think we were in a Discord call. I can't remember who it was. I think it was JDawg, but he was complaining about Pulse Audio, or somebody was complaining about Pulse Audio issues. And then the same issues that they were complaining about, like 2 hours later, Scott hopped on, or archsinner hopped on, and he was having the same audio issue in Windows. Like,
audio, turns out, is freaking hard. Weird. Like, I know.
Apparently, man.
When I was a Windows user back in the day, Bluetooth sucked. Like, trying to connect to a Bluetooth headset was god awful. It was so hard, and then half the time it just didn't work. So I think that audio is just something that we haven't quite figured out yet, probably, which is weird. It just feels weird. All right, moving on to the main topic. So today is mine. I think this is mine. I think we've lost track of who does what, by the way, in terms of the topics, because we have like extra topics in there and we've forgotten who did what, but it doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. But anyways, the main topic for today is best window manager for beginners. So when I'm talking about window manager, I don't necessarily mean tiling window manager, but it could be that way. Tyler, what do you think the best window manager for beginners actually is?
See, this is like such a loaded question, because you kind of need to know who the beginner is and like what the definition of beginner is.
Okay, so let's assume that this person knows how to install Arch Linux. Let's just say. So that's their level of expertise. They've managed to install Arch Linux, so they know the defaults of Linux, at least.
I would have to say most likely it's going to be between like, and this is coming from someone who doesn't even use the first one that I'm going to say. Like, I really haven't used it in forever, but most likely it's going to be OpenBox or i3, like those two. OpenBox just because it's a floating window manager that has an application launcher, or an application menu, I guess I should say. It's very much documentation heavy. And when I say documentation heavy, I mean there's a lot of fucking guides on how to use OpenBox. A lot. You can find plenty of information on using OpenBox. And same thing with i3. They're just kind of different. i3 is obviously a manual tiler, but there's a lot of documentation for them, and they're both pretty easy to configure. But yeah, I think those would be my two two main best for beginners, and the reason is just they're simple to configure, and their documentation really heavy.
Fantastic documentation. Okay, so I have 3 answers to this, because why would I limit myself just to one? So my first answer is i3, which is for the same reasons as you. Not only is it easy to configure and there's a lot of documentation, but once you get into the meat and potatoes of it, there's just so much you can do for it. Now, DT yesterday in his video where he did his tier list for the best window managers, he put i3 in the meh category, which just like, what? And first of all, he did so for 2 reasons. One, because their default key bindings for moving stuff around is JKL semicolon, which is a little weird, but yes, they do that. But again, everyone has to change their key bindings. That's just a thing you do in every single window manager. So it was a weird, kind of stupid reason to ding it. But another reason was because it has a user friendly syntax for their configuration file. So it has defined limits to what you can actually do with that syntax. If the syntax to do what you want to do doesn't exist, you can't do it. I took umbrage with that because in the configuration file you can execute a bash script. Therefore, you can do pretty much whatever you want. If you wanted to do something with xdo tools or something like that i3 couldn't do, you could do that. Also, similar to BSPWM, i3 has an external tool. So if on BSPWM, if you're not, I mean, you're familiar, Tyler, but everybody else, but it has a tool called BSPC. Everything that BSPWM does is through BSPC, managing windows, pre-selection, everything, right? i3 has something similar. It's called i3-MSG. Does the same kind of stuff. There are obviously some things that it doesn't do. So things like rules and key bindings and stuff like that, you can't do with i3-MSG. That has to be set through some other mechanism, but you could use something like SXHKD if you wanted to do that would, whatever. So this turned into me bitching about DT's video, but real fast. But to come back to the point, i3 is fantastic because you can do literally anything, and just like you could do, I mean, there are very few window managers out there where they like literally limit you into what you can do. And I would say that i3 is actually more extensible than something like Xmonad or DWM or something like that, and not necessarily more extensible, but at least more extensible for regular users, people who don't know C or Haskell or Lua. If you're talking about awesome window manager, right? You can, because it's a user-friendly syntax, if you know what you're doing, you can pretty much do all of these things. And then if you happen to know Bash, which is much more likely that you would know some Bash than you would know C or Lua or Haskell. So you can, that's the reason why I like i3, is like you can literally do anything with it. Like, it constantly surprises me the number of things that you can do with it. Plus, it's really easy to use whatever bar you want. Like, I was in the Discord today, and someone says, well, I just don't like the i3 bar. Like, literally, you can take the i3 bar out by commenting out 5 lines. Like, that's all it is to disable the bar, right? And then you can use whatever bar you want. You could use Xmobar, you could use, if you like Haskell, you could use Polybar, Tint2, whatever. Like, you could use whatever bar you want to. So that's really cool. Like, I really like that. So that's the reason why i3 is on the top of my list. The other one that I would say is also really good for beginners, and this is going to be kind of surprising to some people, is Qtile. And the reason why I say it's good, because a lot of people know quite a bit, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people know a lot of stuff about Python. And if you know some Python, Qtile is a fantastic place because it's written and configured in Python. But also, it has, I would say that it has better documentation than i3, and that's saying something, because i3's documentation is fantastic, right? And Qtile has as good as or better documentation than i3 does. It is a little bit more technical than the i3 documentation, I will give it that, but it's really good. Plus, built-in bar in the bar.
Yeah, it's extensive and laid out very well for somebody to just come in and read. Like, you can. It's just extreme. they have a lot of documentation, but they've presented it in a way where anybody can go in there and not be overwhelmed by the documentation.
Yeah,
I completely agree with recommending Qtile. The only thing that I will say for anybody who takes that recommendation is know good and well Qtile updates frequently.
They break,
and so if
and
you
they don't mind breaking stuff.
Yeah, they have no problem with breaking things, and so if you ever have an issue with your Qtile config, it is most likely because they've updated and changed the way that they are doing something.
It's usually
so
it's usually the bar. Like, let's just be honest, it's usually the bar because they're like changing one of the widgets or something. And is no longer compatible with your configuration file. Yeah, they do that all the time. That's probably the biggest problem with Qtile. But yeah, it's so good. Like, it's a really good window manager. The third one on that I would recommend for new users is OpenBox as well. OpenBox is really a really good floating window manager. It's fairly easy to configure. Like, it's not the most easy to configure, but has so much, like you said, there's so much stuff out there for it, right? Like, if you want to add like stuff to the menu, it's really easy to figure out, right? If you wanted to figure out how to change the theme or whatever, there's a lot of documentation out there that you can get into to figure out how to do it. And it's probably the best floating window manager that I know of. Probably just bar none. Like, there's so much stuff that you can do for it. Now, everyone's just... Every time I have this conversation with people, they're like, "But Matt, what about Awesome Window Manager? Like, it's really good. It's it's in DT's great tier." Yeah, right. My problem with Awesome is Lua's not great. Like, I don't like Lua all that much at all, and it doesn't like me. Maybe. Every time I say I don't like a programming language, like, well, that's a you problem, right? Like, there's not actually anything wrong with the programming language. It's just because you're too stupid to figure it out, and that's 100% true. Like, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's opinion. Well, like, I mean, we're talking about best window managers for beginners. This is all opinion. Yeah. Like, it's not like this is objective fact and truth. Like, no. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all know the beginner who's like, yeah, so I started out in Ubuntu, and then I just decided I'd go Gentoo and BSPWM, XXHKD, and, like, did all of the, like, just all of the complex route as their first dive in to anything complex about Linux, and they had a great time. Like, that doesn't mean that you recommend that for everybody, like, I think BSPWM is great, but compared to a lot of other options, I wouldn't recommend it for beginners. Like, this is all opinion. I don't see why anybody would get like upset about anything. Honestly,
I'd love to recommend BSPWM for beginners, but the documentation is just so bad. Like, it does not. I mean, if you go to their GitHub page, their documentation is like 400 words total, and like half of that is like a weird tree diagram. Now, they do have more documentation, but you have to know about man pages in order to get there. Like, that's where the documentation it lies in man pages. And no offense to man pages, but they read like man pages, right?
I mean, they're not good man pages. They're just, they're not bad man pages either. Like, that's the problem. They're not good or bad.
They're man pages. Like they're written like technical documents, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's the way it's kind of parsed. Like, so it's not very new user friendly, right? And BSPWM confuses people because, especially if this is a problem that I know a lot of people have. So they go to Unix porn, and this was more of a problem like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago when i3 was like the shit. Like, everyone was using i3, and like everyone was recommending i3, so everybody got on i3, and then it was no longer the fad, so they moved on to BSPWM. One of the problems that a lot of people had, and they don't realize, is that BSPWM does not at all, not even a little bit, manage key bindings. Like, it just doesn't do it, right? And that confuses, like, if you've come from a window manager that does everything for you to moving to a window manager that does does not do everything for you and requires something else in order to actually manage the key bindings. You know, that's very confusing, especially with a window manager that doesn't have fantastic documentation on the web. Like, it doesn't do a very good, I mean, it explains it, but it doesn't do a lot of good explaining about why it does this, or, you know, even how to set it up. Like, it's just assumes that you know you have to do this. Like, if you view the BSPWM install page, it's like, you know, it tells you how to install SXHKD. It doesn't really tell you why you need to do so, you know? And it's just, you know, I love SXHKD. I use that on every single window manager that I use, like every single one. But it's definitely not something that you want to point a new user towards, because you know, like, why do you need this thing? Like, I don't understand. Like, KD Plasma manages key binding for me, you know.
And it's ironically, it's one of those it's funny that there's so many programs out there that are just, they're incredible programs to use. Like, they will just make your life awesome. Like, SXHKD is fantastic. It's an absolute great program for managing keybinds. It's super simple. Like, there's so many of these programs that are great, but that have names that if I wanted to recommend it to you, or us have a conversation about it, it's a pain to say the freaking name. And most likely you're going to get it wrong. Like, I have to watch myself every time I say it. SXHKD. It doesn't roll off the tongue. So it's just
Did you see that video that somebody did? They put together like a mashup of me, DT, Luke Smith, Brody, all trying to say SXHKD to like a rap song or something. It was utter hilarity. It was so much fun. But yeah. The Linux community is great. The Linux developer community is fantastic, but they can't name shit. like no. SXIV, NCMPCPP, like what kind of like you weren't even smoking the good stuff at that point, okay? Like whatever you had was definitely laced with the not good stuff.
Like, you make a great program, and then you're like, how can we make it so complicated that no one will want to say it? Like, stop. Just name your stuff. Like, come on.
Word of mouth is really important, but if you can't remember the order of the letters that you used, it's like creating a really complicated password to get into your computer and then not remembering what it was. You know what I mean? Oh man, NCMPCPP. I think I've memorized the letters, but I could be mixing them up. SX.
That's the problem. Even when you think you know it, you're wrong. Or possibly.
That's
wrong.
why I've got, every time I mention that on the channel, like in a video, I go, oh, NCMPCPP or whatever it's called. Or whatever it's called. Like, I know I might have gotten it wrong. Don't at me. I don't care that much, because obviously if I did care, I would sit here and NCMPCPP, NCMCMP, fuck off. You just can't. Okay, here's the funniest thing in the world right now is that somebody said NCMPCPP and YouTube hid the comment. So good. That's great. Oh, YouTube, you're awesome. Oh God. All right, so let's carry this on just a little further. Just what is, Tyler, your favorite window manager now? Oh, like, I know at one point it was DWM. Is it still DWM?
No, it's BSPWM. It's so nice. Like, and it's really not. It's not that it's because it doesn't have more features than other window managers. Like, it's just really the reason I like it is it's got extremely great default settings for tile. Like, I don't have to add other tiling layouts or any shit. I think you could. I don't know. I don't even have to mess around with it. It's just the default one is great. Overall, the way in which it works is just nice. and it's just a window manager. Like that's it. It's just a window manager. So
do you use pre-selection a lot?
No, I never use it.
Like
Never.
That's the selling point of BSPWM, and you never use it. I'm exactly the same way. Like BSPWM is fantastic, but it's a manual tiling window manager, and you wouldn't know it. Like it's basically a dynamic tiling window manager, but it's actually not. It's actually a manual, but you're supposed to use that pre-selection, and I never remembered that it's there, like ever.
Yeah, like it's a manual tiler that's optionally manual.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's a little weird.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's really good. Like CWM, like someone said CWM in the comments or in chat, and I really like the column window manager. The column window manager is nice, but I don't know, the floating aspect of it just got annoying after a while. Like I do really enjoy just dynamic tilers that take care of window management for me and everything, and then occasionally I'll have a floating window, like occasionally. So really, in all honesty, like I prefer the dynamic tiling, but
once you
both of those are good.
Once you go to a tiling window manager, you never go back. I mean, like unless you absolutely have to.
For me, I go back, but I typically don't stay.
But you don't go back and be happy about it.
I can.
You're weird. You're using Windows right now. I cannot take you seriously. I almost made it the whole episode without saying anything about this man using Windows, but he's using Windows, and I just can't keep it in anymore. Why is he using Windows? This is the Linux cast. God. I'm done with this.
Look, I'm using Windows. For everybody who's watching, I'm using Windows. I've got an interview when I get back. I'm going to help archsinner move. So when I get back, I've got an interview a couple days after I get back, and it's for a position doing stuff in Unreal Engine 5 and Unity and like VR and kind of like set design and stuff for video production. So I kind of have to. Oh, archsinner in chat is like disgusting. Be quiet. He's running Windows. He's running Windows. No, get out of here.
For those of you who are just listening to that load of utter garbage, all you heard was excuses, yeah, that's what I heard too. Okay, so my favorite tiling window manager is actually i3 now. I've been trying other window managers again. Like I went back to DWM for a little while, and this is gonna be just so matte of me. But I mean, this is gonna be the most matte thing I've ever said. But I love the fact that i3 lets me have as many workspaces as possible, and I can create key bindings for every single workspace that I have. And there are only a couple other window managers that will allow you to do that. One of them being Herp's Loft. Excuse me, BSPWM would too, actually, because you can use XXHKD to do it. But the point is that outside of just that, I have my setup so tuned in now on i3. It's so hard for me to go to something else. Like I used Qtile the other day, and I just got done recommending Qtile. Like it's so good. Like the documentation is good. The bar is fantastic. But I went and used Qtile for like a day, and I was like, I miss i3. Like I had to go back, So i3 apparently is my window manager now. Like I can't seem to leave it behind.
Qtile is great, just definitely not for you, because there's no way.
Only 9
Qtile
workspaces.
in the way it, the Qtile in the way it does workspaces will just never work for you.
I have been told by one of my frequent commenters that you can use more than 9 workspaces on Qtile. You can. They even gave me the code to do it. I never did get that implemented, but the point stands is that I'm I seem to have come to the point where i3 is just my window manager. It's where I'm at.
Well, and i3, like it's with Qtile, like you essentially are doing your own Python code to implement that functionality. on i3, it's just like i3 is just like, yep, maybe you can do it. Like, I got you. It's all good.
See,
all good.
I miss sometimes the configuration of DWM. Like, I enjoyed like learning a lot of C in order to, you know, do the configuration of DWM. Like, I enjoyed that. But there are a couple things about DWM that just make it unusable for me. One is that the bar is not as extensible as something like polybar or something like that. Like you can, but it's really freaking hard. And you can don't at me. I know you can use polybar in DWM, but it's a pain in the ass. Like, it's not like if you use other patches, getting polybar to actually run on DWM is not easy. Like, you can be done, but it's just not. It's not easy. And the other thing is the workspaces thing. It has 18 workspaces, which is plenty for me. Like, I don't need. I would not miss those extra 2 workspaces. I'd be fine. I'd brood for a couple days, but I'd get over it. but it seems to be impossible in DWM to set key bindings for workspaces on both monitors. So you can't have dedicated key bindings for each workspace, and I rely on that now all the time. Like, moving away from that is just something that I've found impossible to do. So I don't know. Anyways, that's my favorite is i3, and you said BSPWM. BSPWM is really good. I just feel guilty not using its main feature. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm not using it. Without using pre-selection, it makes me feel like, why am I bothering using this thing? Right? I don't know why I feel that way.
For me, I don't feel that way because I like it too much, and I just don't. I feel like that's functionality that's built in there just because it is a window manager, and I think it's one of those things where I appreciate the feature being there for BSPWM because there's plenty of people that prefer manual tilers. I'm just not one of those people. That's kind of the way I
Which
look
I
at
think
it.
is utter hilarity.
But we have to be careful. We've been talking about window managers, like tiling and non-tiling window managers for a minute now. And as soon as this conversation about window managers comes to an end, where we don't have any more actual window managers to talk about, you're just going to go into how much you love GNOME. And I just want to be careful there.
Who here, between the two of us, right now is using Windows? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Go on. You can do it. You raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yeah, that guy right there.
I'm using Windows. Okay?
Yeah, I'm the one that's going to go use GNOME. No, I don't think so. He's the traitor here, you know.
No. We all know Matt has a secret passion, secret love affair going on with GNOME.
I thought you were going to say
he wants his community to know nothing.
A secret fetish for it.
Well, I wasn't going to go that far, but...
No, I don't like GNOME. Although, I will say this, is that if you're going to use a version of GNOME, you should use Ubuntu's version of GNOME. Like, you really should. They've done a really good job of making that customizable. Like, so much so that you don't need themes. Like, the one thing that I always wanted in GNOME was to have themes. If you use Ubuntu's version of GNOME, their light theme is even okay, but if you switch to the dark theme and then change the accent color to whatever you want, it's really good. Like, it's actually really good. It's still not for me. Like, I'm still going to want tiling and stuff like that, but it's so much better than, like, stock GNOME. And yes, I know, like, GNOME 42 has this stuff too. Like, it's going to, or it will, or does, or whatever. I don't even know. But, like, Ubuntu has made it now so you can change it so that the panel's no longer along the side. That always bothered me, like those big-ass fucking ugly icons along the side. You know, now you can change it. You can put it along the bottom and make it just like a dock. You know, and that's standard. You don't need GNOME tweaks to do it. That's really good. Like, finally, like, there's customization in GNOME. Shoot me dead. You know, like the GNOME people have spent years telling us that customization is not an option because it's too hard to do, and Ubuntu's like, bitches, I got this. You know, I mean, come on. Like they did it. Like, they made it good. Now I would like that panel thing to be like a default, but it's so easy to change it, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that you can change it, awesome. I mean, it's so good. I just spent like 5 minutes talking about how good GNOME is. This is your fucking fault, Tyler.
See, I'm telling you guys, he has a secret love affair going on with GNOME behind the scenes that he would like no one to know about. Absolutely no one. It's very private. He's very touchy about it.
What you don't know, and you're not gonna be able to see this, Tyler, is that the thing you see on screen right now with the whole bar at the top and the terminal on the screen, that's actually GNOME. That's not i3 anymore. That's just actually GNOME. That's.
Oh no! See, this is what he loads up for to try and deceive like everyone while we're doing the podcast.
It's a VM, but really,
exactly.
I'm a secret. I'm a secret vanilla GNOME user.
Yeah. If you were to just somehow be able to leave this environment that he's showing off right now, you'd end up straight back up in GNOME.
I haven't changed the wallpaper either. It's like the default wallpaper. I'm still, and I refuse to upgrade to the new version of GNOME, which changed the folder icons. So I'm still using those beige icons because beige is my favorite color. God, that's so horrible. That's so not even close to being
the
true.
funny part is as much as you dislike those icons, if you checked out GNOME 42, like that's the part that gets everybody. Is when you check out GNOME 42 and their icons, you're like, oh my god, you guys finally fixed the Eduardo icons.
I know they like so much better. They didn't even change the shape. They're the same shape, just with a different color on them, and they're like 100 million times better. Like literally
so much better.
It changes the entire desktop environment that they made those a different color. It's so much better. Like you can't even, like, it makes you speechless. Like, oh my god, it's like so good, right? Like, why did this take so long? Like,
the funny part is that icon update genuinely improves their file browser. Like,
well, yeah, because it makes it usable without having to use GNOME tweaks to change the icons.
Yep.
You couldn't use it before, but because you open it up and you saw those beige icons, like, oh god, those things are fucking ugly. Like, why?
Well, it's funny that they went from like turd brown to like beige is probably really good. Like, I don't know of any designer that's like, beige will really, really bring out the color here. This will really make everything pop.
Hey, Mentalk, we're only talking about GNOME because that asshole over there made us. Okay, it's his fault. Okay.
Look, I'm sorry. I just want Matt's like GNOME affair to be public. It's about time. You've been keeping it private for too long.
You were supposed to be my friend, Tyler. You're not supposed to bring me out like that, okay?
Well, so since we have like divulged a lot away from the actual like window manager part of the talk, we pretty much, for everyone who ended up coming in late to the podcast or doesn't remember, we both agreed that window managers for beginners, OpenBox and i3 is probably the two best recommendations for new users, right?
Yep.
Perfect.
All right.
Because I think that's great. Like, those are both really good options, whether you want floating or tiling.
Yeah, they're really good. So for those of you, okay, so before we move on to the last bit, I want everyone who has never tried a tiling window manager before to go try one. I think, like, I know it's not for everybody. Like, tiling window managers are definitely not for everybody. That's for sure. But I think that everyone should try one at a certain point in their career, their Linux career. They should give it a try. It doesn't matter which. It doesn't. I mean, you're gonna have a really bad experience if your first window manager is Haskell, like and Xmonad, right? Yeah. If you try Xmonad as your very first one, you probably won't like it unless you already know Haskell. Like if you're a Haskell developer, Xmonad is probably your best friend. But other than that, probably not. But if you try like literally any other one, for the most, like even if you started with something like a rare one, like Herbstloff WM or something like that, you know, it would be fine. It would give you, I mean, it has its quirks that aren't the same as everything else, of course, but you know, it would get you there, like get your foot in the door. If you know, just try one of them. I think that a lot of people have this idea that tiling window managers are just for the nerdiest of nerds, right? And
yeah.
Maybe that's true. Like, yes, I like ricing my window manager a lot, and that you know, it is a thing that's just for me. But I mean, obviously a lot of people like doing it, but that's just, you know, something that I like to do. But it's not just because every Unix porn picture has 2 terminals with a whole bunch of code in it doesn't mean that you have to be a coder to use a tiling window manager. So I really think, like I said, I'm a big proponent of everyone trying it. Like, even if you are like, all you do is browse, like in Firefox, it's all you ever do, use a tiling window manager. You might find yourself enjoying it.
Or at the very least, just give it a try, you know?
Yeah.
Try everything. But, well, I mean, within reason. Don't just jump off a bridge because everybody else is doing it. Don't try that one. But, you know, window manager is probably a safe try.
It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the last thing of the thing that we normally talk about, which is called, God Lord, it's called the thingy of the week. So we have no real name for this, so we just ended up calling it the thingy of the week. We could have called it apps of the week or picks of the week or whatever of the week, but we chose thingy of the week because it's the thing we just kind of settled on. So Tyler, your thingy of the week.
Well, I like the fact that we are both going to do the same class of things. So for me, Vampire Survivors on Steam, I believe it's released for Mac and Windows, but you know, obviously it runs fantastically through Proton on Linux. It's like a $3 game, and I've just purchased it, and I'm going to be playing it on stream here eventually. Probably today, and I'm extremely excited about it. I've seen people play it. Hex DSL has a video playing it. I think Asmongold's done content on it. Like, there's plenty of dudes on YouTube who have done content on it. It's a really great casual game. Like, I really like it. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Check it out. It's a great game.
Okay, so I have 2. I know I didn't write this in the show notes, but I have 2. So the first one is a game. It's called Kingdoms and Castles, and it is amazing. Like, it is so good. So it is a combination. It's kind of a combination of like Minecraft, Zero AD, and City Skylines. If it is, it's a city builder game where you, well, also kind of like Civilization too, because you're playing against other like AI characters that will attack your village eventually, right? So it's got the Zero AD thing, right? But also like so you build like a palace or whatever, and then you build farms and houses and bridges and roads and stuff like that. It like I bought it because it was on sale for like $7 or something like that, and
yeah.
It was like $7, like, and it looks cool, so I bought it, and I was like, wow, this thing is really fun. So I ended up playing it for like 4 hours straight, you know, like, and I didn't even realize like by the time 4 hours, like, wow, 4 hours went by, like, it was really good. Yeah, that's what I've spent a lot of my time doing this week, is playing that game. It's really good, and it plays really well on Linux. So it does have a Linux native version. So it just was, like I said, it was really good. The other one that I would like to recommend, or my other thingy of the week, and I'm going to show this. Unfortunately, Tyler, you're not going to be able to see this, but for those of you who are on screen, you'll see the new keycaps that I have here. And yes, I bought keycaps. But all right, so these are MA profile keycaps. They are actually pretty cheap, $30 for a whole base set, and they're amazing. They're like so good. The profile's not for everybody, right? because it's like it's very flat, right? So if you're not into flat keycaps without like the definition of like a cherry profile or something like that, if you're not into that, so these won't be for you. But if you like flat keycaps, they're really good. So they're called MA Profile Laser PBT keycaps. Very, very good name, but they are really good. Like, I'm really enjoying them. Plus the white on black aesthetic of them, really nice. So
that curved part about it, I don't know that I'd like that.
Yeah, they're not going to be for everybody, but I saw them, like, well, you know, I'm going to give these a try, and like, man, they're really good. I actually found that I've been typing faster on them. So my speed went from, like, I would usually average between 80 and 90. I've been getting routinely over 100 with these. I don't know why, because the keycaps that I had before were XDA profile, which is completely flat. Like, there's no rounded part of them at all. Like, they're completely flat. So it's not like I'm using something that's a little bit different, but maybe the rounded aspect of these, so there's a little bit more spacing between the keys, has allowed me to not make so many mistakes. I don't know what it is about them, but I have been typing faster. So maybe it's just because I got new keycaps and I get excited when I type on them. I don't know.
True.
Anyway, so those are the thingies of the week, and we do have all of our thingies of the week in our show notes. So if you want to go to like my GitLab page, you can find all of our previous thingies of the week in the show notes, the completed episodes directory. All those things are there. You can follow us on all of our social media networks and stuff like that. All those links will be at linuxcast.org/contact. You can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/linuxcast. Before I go, I should thank my current patrons. And I'm going to read all these names now. Robert, Syd, Devon, Patrick, Fred, Kramer, Tridevil, Antoine, Maeglin, Jack Mitchel, Steve A, CyberGuyLinux, Garrick, Samuel, KB, TGB, Keith, Andy, Unklle, Bonehead, Gary, Ross, Mitchel, JDawg, carbondated, Jeremy, Shaun, Odin, Martin, Eduardo, archsinner, Elliott, Mislav, Marek, Camp, Joshua, Peter A, Crucible, Dark Bandit 6, Primus, PM, rlocone, and Phillip. Thanks everybody for watching. We record this live every Thursday around 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot of fun with the pre-show and stuff like that. Like today, we talked about how California is on fire. So, really random pre-show thing that will probably scare away a lot of people. But what are we going to do about it? Anyway, so that is, we record live on the LinuxCast, youtube.com/LinuxCast. Join us then. We'll see you next week.